Hello, my name is Burnham, and I'm a professional public speaker on mental health and suicide prevention. So I get to talk about these two subjects, but also speak on my story and how it affects me and how it involves me. My story basically starts out in 10th grade. When I was 16, I was diagnosed with depression. And there were signs and symptoms of depression that were going on in my life. My sleep and my appetite were very inconsistent. My anger management was something that I couldn't control. It felt like I had this lack of motivation to get up out of bed and get my day started, but I couldn't put the pieces together and figuring out why. But when I was diagnosed with depression, I didn't take it seriously because I didn't know what the difference was between feeling depressed or having depression. Because anyone at any given point in time can feel depressed, but more times than not, you know what you're depressed about. And that's something that I didn't know. Because with depression, you can wake up one day and have no idea why you have such a low self-esteem, why you're crying for no reason, sad for no reason. It's very frustrating. But I didn't take it seriously. I wouldn't take my antidepressant on a consistent basis, and I was self-medicating with alcohol. My junior year, I was really struggling academically, and also problems with my girlfriend, with cheating on her, and having to go to school and hear these smart remarks and jokes behind my back that to other people were lighthearted and funny, but to me, it killed me on the inside. That resulted in me going to a mental hospital for a week that year. That year, I also got caught twice by my parents for drinking, which is one of the worst feelings in the world. And leading up to my senior year, my parents went off for a trip, and I threw a party that gets busted by the police. And I'll never forget having to call my dad crying, telling him I'm so sorry for letting you down yet again, as your son, someone that should be making you happy and proud. And by the time my senior year started, I was constantly having suicidal thoughts, not questioning whether I would do it or not, but going through a checklist of how would I do it. The one thing I said over and over again was I don't necessarily want to die, but the part of me that has depression, I want that part to die. One night, my parents confronted me about an alcohol that was in my car, this duffel bag full of it. And when my dad dropped that bag right in front of me, my heart dropped with it, saying, "Here I am, their son. All I do is disappoint them, make them angry, upset. I can tell by the expression on their faces they don't want me to be their son anymore." And that was the night I tried to take my own life by going out of my 9-story bedroom window. When I hit the ground 90 feet below, I broke my left fibula, was stripped through the skin. I broke my left tibia. I shattered my left femur. I broke my pelvis. I broke my jaw in 4 different places, and I broke my left wrist. I was bleeding internally from my brain and my organs, and when I was flown to the hospital that night, I was induced into a coma for 5 days. Now I wake up from a coma, and I have no idea what's going on. Everything feels like a dream. To this day, I don't remember going out my window. I remember everything else leading up to that event, golfing that day, the car ride home with my dad, even the expression on my parents' faces, but for some reason, going out that window, I just don't remember. My sister was the person that had to tell me what happened, and we remained very close, best friends, so I knew she was someone I could ask. She told me that I attempted suicide, and I didn't believe her. Because 1, I wouldn't survive a 9-story fall, and 2, even though I had those thoughts, I felt like I would never go through with them. 19% of young adults contemplate suicide in a given year, but the ones who have depression are 5 times more likely to go through with it. I never thought I'd be a part of that statistic. So I have to lay there for days and weeks, months, down to 80 pounds, can't move, can't talk, with no one else to blame but myself for something that I went through with. But I was very fortunate to be able to tell my story to a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And I was able to share my story in hopes to help others, so that whoever is in the position of thinking about taking their own life or having depression would never be at the same point that I was laying in that hospital bed. The story came out in January of 2008, and it made a huge impact on people. I was able to receive letters, phone calls, and emails thanking me for not only telling the story, but the one thing I heard over and over again was thank you for making me feel like I'm not alone with how I struggle with my mental health. And even though it's great to make a difference, to touch people with this story, I missed my entire senior year of high school, something I look forward to from day one because of the repercussions of my suicide attempt. And now today, after 5 years of my suicide attempt, I feel great doing what I am. I love my job. I don't think there's a more rewarding job than being able to go around the country to share my story in hopes to help others. I also have a very healthy emotional balance. I see my therapist on a regular basis. I take my medicine on a consistent basis because depression isn't a cold. It doesn't go away after a couple weeks after you take some medicine and go see a therapist. It's something that I deal and cope with, but deal and cope with in a much better way. In conclusion, As I tell my story in hopes to help others, the one thing that's great for me to know is that depression I thought you could only suffer from. But along my way of telling my story for these last 5 years, I've learned that I can have depression and be the person that I want to be. I can have depression but can be successful still. I can have depression and that doesn't define me, but the work that I do in helping others, that's what truly defines me, and I'm very happy to be able to do that. Thank you.